the anchor. You know, the anchor site, you know where the anchor is down in South Main Street. I just want you to know that that anchor was not made there. We call it the Anchor Forge. There was a forge there, but it didn't make anchors. A forge operated by the Leonard family for over 200 years. 200, just think of that. And they had a forge set up there, and they had a water wheel and a big trip hammer. And the water wheel would make that hammer go down, and they could pound out the iron that they made. And when the state, that's the state road there, when the state redid the road, changed the corner or something, as they were with a digging, they dug up part of that trip hammer. It was a big, I don't know whether it was a boulder or what it was. And at the time, they asked us, the town, do you want it? You know, it's like a monument. And, well, no, we didn't want it. So they buried it. It's still there underneath that new road somewhere, in case you ever want to know where it is. But anyway, the iron that they used was what they call bog iron. Bog iron. It comes out of the earth is stuff like peat. And over in Ireland and England, they burn peat. Well, this is stuff that's older than peat, and has been in the ground since the beginning of time, I guess. But they used to dig it out and burn it in a furnace that was heated by charcoal. And they made the charcoal out of the wood that they cut around the town. They say to have enough charcoal for a year for that forge, you'd have to cut a swath of trees a half mile wide and 7 miles long. Wow, that's a lot of wood. And of course they hired people to chop the wood and then people to run the forge. But anyway, again, when I was on the Conservation Commission, there was a chance to buy that piece of property there. There was 7 acres there. And I knew the woman who owned it. And so I went over and spoke to her, and it's funny how I got to know her. Her daughter knew my sister. It's funny how things go. But anyway, I told her what my idea was, to get the town to buy that, and it would never be used for houses or, you know, pizza shops or whatever. It would always be in the condition that it is now. And so she agreed. I went to town meeting, got the money appropriated, and we paid, you know how much we paid for 7 acres of prime land in Raynham? $7,000. $1,000 an acre. And the lady was happy to get it. And so we got the property there, and there was the Conservation Commission way back in those days. I want to mention the people that I remember on the Conservation Commission. It was me, John Welch, Arthur Lazarus, Betty Thompson, Dora Pine, Gus Shove, Jim Carey, and Eugene O'Brien. I don't know whether those people are, I know Carey's no longer with us, but anyway, that was the committee, and we did pretty well. You wondered, you know, at the time, when we first got organized, we didn't even have a place to meet. And when I would looking for a place to meet, the people would say, "Who are you?" You know. So we had to start right from scratch. And anyway, that's how. That's how we got the anchor site. Then along came the parade for, I think it was for the, what do you call it, 1976, the anniversary of the Declaration of Independence or something. And they were going to have a big parade. And someone stepped forward and said, "Hey, I can get an anchor to put on that site. I can get it." This fellow was in the Naval Reserve, and at the time the Navy was getting rid of some of its surplus material, and they had this anchor. They call it a Danforth anchor. That's the guy that invented it. But the trouble is, you have to get it. It's down at the not Quantico. Anyway, there's a naval plot, not Newport, but a little further down in Rhode Island. And anyway, it's down there, but you got to get it up here. That's up to you, the man said, or up to us to get it to Raynham. So again, someone stepped forward. George Miller, you may remember George, owned the trailer park up here, mobile home park. George Miller at the time was a contractor in town, and he had a flatbed trailer and a truck to pull it. So he said, "I'll go down and get it, put it on my trailer, bring it back." Did that, just in time for the parade. Put some flowers and ribbons on it and put it in the parade. Dragged it through the parade, through town, brought it back to the site. Well, now you got to get that anchor off to put it on some kind of pedestal, so you can display it. Well, again, George Miller spoke up, and he and his crew made a pedestal, a cement platform, and got that thing off of his trailer somehow, set it up on the platform, and there it is today. There it is today. There is a stone with a plaque on the front of it that's over, not quite with the anchor, it's over a little closer to the river. And that was placed there by some historical society way back in the 30s. But that's on a separate piece of land. Now, when we first purchased the land, the Conservation Commission purchased the first 7 acres, we talked to the man who owned the other piece. He lived across the street, and he didn't want to sell it at the time. He didn't want to, and so years later, I suppose he thought about it, and he gave it to the town. So now it's part of the anchor site. It's all one piece. And now, getting back to the forge, they called it a bloomery. It's not a very fancy name for a forge, but they call it a bloomery. And what they made was pots and pans and buckets and things like that, out of iron, of course. And they also, during the King Philip War, going way back in your history, King Philip was destroying all the little towns around, but he never destroyed houses in Raynham because the Leonard Forge was making his tomahawks, and so he kept away from Raynham. But you hear other places through Deerfield and up there, it really did some damage. But anyway, as long as you remember that that anchor was not made there, we call it Anchor Forge, but the anchor came from a far different place. And that's my stories for today. Thank you all for watching, and it's so nice. I hope you can, continue to watch my shows. They'll come on every once in a while.